What is going on, everybody, and welcome to the Thursday edition of the Stochastic NHL Strategy Show, sponsored by Better Picks. I am your host, Josh Harris. Interesting day for me. My wife went back from her maternity leave today, so it's been a bit crazy in the Harris household with just me and the boys and the 4 dogs, but we're surviving. Joining me, as always, Slim Cliffy. Got his ears lowered. How you doing today?
Not doing too bad. Things are a little bit more relaxed in my household. I would wager. No, doing good. I mean, hey, the Habs won last night. Can't complain about that. I mean, it's a weird thing. The Habs are in what is year 2 of a rebuild. I think they've kind of shown they're not in the very basement of the league anymore. They're not in that. I dare say Columbus, San Jose, maybe even still Chicago, Anaheim tier. They're not quite a playoff team yet. Starting to make strides forward. Habs are on the slate again here tonight in a much tougher matchup, which should be interesting. But yeah, wild DFS slate last night. I took the night off to watch some movies. Actually, I just needed a night away, other than the Habs game. But I think it was 133 points took down the $15 last night, and the winner had 4 goals in his lineup. Pretty low scoring night last night. And you kind of got screwed by a challenge.
Yeah, I would have cashed last night. LA won, scored, and then there was an offsides challenge. I don't care what side of the challenge you're on. Offsides challenge, the way they're constituted in the NHL right now, sucks. My dogs are going nuts right now. I gave them ice cubes. Seems like a big mistake on my part. But yeah, I mean, last night you needed a Habs defenseman, Anthony Mantha, and some of Rangers too. Otherwise, you were in trouble.
I mean, that Rangers second line, man, Lafreniere. I mean, you have to give it up for Panarin. I think quietly Panarin's putting up a Hart Trophy kind of season right now. Like, he's probably definitely in the top 5 or 6 guys, I think. So you have to give credit there. But Lafreniere, he's looked better than he ever has.
Yeah, and he played 21 minutes last night. Like, Lavalette, I'm not the biggest fan of his, but like, what the heck was Gallant doing for the past 2 years if Lavalette's getting the Rangers to play like this? Like, sometimes, I don't know, like Lafreniere, he looks bigger, he looks like he belongs, and he's not playing with like Barclay Goodrow 14 minutes a night, which makes a big difference. You get to play with this Panarin and either Trocheck or Hedl, and it makes a big difference. So, and the Igor sucks crowd.
Very quiet right now. Very, very quiet.
9% Lindgren was the play. Yeah, he was 7K on DraftKings too. Panarin loses his hair and goes super signed. Yeah, he's bald. Panarin is the new NHL mythical creature. So
Great.
We have a big slate, 14 games. We probably should get into it. The first game, Sharks at least are going to ruin the slate at 7 p.m. Eastern instead of 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So at least we have that going for us. But we should get into it before we do. You know the drill. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. You can keep up with all of our shows, DFS offers, giveaways, and much more. When you subscribe, hit that notification button so you know when our shows go live. If YouTube isn't for you and you're listening to this on the way home from your drive from work or wherever, you can find all of our content over on the Stochastic Podcast channel. Give us a nice 5-star review. Say Igor sucks, and then I know I can block you. You also can join the Stochastic Hall of Fame by changing your avatar on DraftKings and FanDuel. You got to go to stochastic.com/avatar, download it, make it your Avi on DraftKings and FanDuel. Place in the top 3 of a contest with over 5K contestants. Tweet the wins to @StochasticHOF on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it nowadays, or you can email us with your screenshot and you win a free month of Stochastic package of your choice. You can only win once in a calendar year, but again, like I always say, if you have multiple top 5s, you're probably doing pretty all right. Let's get into this idiot Sharks game. It is a Sharks with a 2 total. That's being generous. Going into Boston, the Bruins have a 3.9 total. Bruins switched up their lines. It's Pavel Zacha with David Pastrnak and Jake DeBrusk. Second line, I believe, is Marchand, Van Riemsdyk, and Frederick. We don't have it updated in the lineup.
No, Marchand's with Fletcher and Dan Heinen.
Okay. Yeah. So I was actually a bit surprised that there isn't a ton of ownership here on Boston 1. Like, it's going to be cheaper now that DeBrusk is up there instead of Marchand. It's still fully correlated, I believe. DeBrusk was on the top power play a couple games ago. Were they missing somebody? I think he's up on the top power play. Yeah, so that line is fully correlated. The Sharks, this is the first time they've been on the East Coast this year. My dogs are going absolutely bonkers. They hate the Sharks. I'm in on the Boston Bruins. Obviously, it's just a matter of what line you want to do. I think you can – KJ coming through in the clutch. JVR was out when DeBrusk was power play winning. Thank you. So, yeah, I don't know if that line's going to be fully correlated now, but it doesn't really matter. They're going to score even strength. They're going to score on the penalty kill. They're going to score on the power play. They're going to score from the press box. They're going to score from the hot dog vendor in Section 312. You can do whatever you want, really, with the Bruins. I want to see a rerun on ownership. I'm going to kick it to you so I can get my dogs to quiet down.
Yeah. Just to go over that power play stuff again, they did change up the power play in the last game. They had Charlie Coyle on the top unit for one power play, and then they had James Van Riemsdyk back on the top power play unit for the next one. So I'm going to assume that JVR is back there. So it doesn't give them a perfectly correlated top line, but as you mentioned, you do save quite a bit of money going down from Marchand to Jake DeBrusk. It's $2,900 that you save on DraftKings. So I imagine even though DeBrusk probably isn't on the top power play unit, that it's still going to drive up ownership just because now they're a $19,400 line. Talking about that ownership, here's the top stacks tool. With Marchand on the top line, it was 10%. Like I said, I imagine that comes up and it's probably closer to 15%. With the Bruss there, with how cheap they are. Well, how cheap, I mean, relatively speaking. Boston's been pretty good. The interesting thing is, like, Zacha and Pasternak really haven't been great at 5-on-5 offensively with Brad Marchand off the line. Like, that's why Brad Marchand was moved up to the top line, is because Zacha and Pasternak really weren't playing that well. Nearly 90 minutes this season without Marchand, 2.9 expected goals, 2 actual goals per 60 minutes. Now, that was shooting 5.9%. That could easily double, and I wouldn't blink, bat an eye, and then all of a sudden they're up to 4 goals per 60 minutes and looks like the old Boston top line that we normally think of. It is a tremendous matchup for them. The Sharks take more penalties than the league average, 3.6 times shorthanded per game. San Jose penalty kill, it's still bad. There's nothing new there. I think you're fine to just load up Boston 1. If you want to take off DeBrusk and put Marchand back there, you can do that. If you want to put James Van Riemsdyk, you can do that. If you want just 5-man power play stack, add Charlie McAvoy and all the forwards, I think you can do that as well. Like, there are lots of reasons to play the top Boston guys. The interesting part for me would be that Coyle, Van Riemsdyk, Frederick line, because they're not getting a lot of ownership. They're a little bit expensive. Like, they're not a true filler stack. They're just under $13K on DraftKings, but they've been pretty good this year. Not so good defensively, but you're not worried about defense against the San Jose Sharks, and you still get one guy on the top power play in it. So, like, Coyle, Van Riemsdyk, Frederick, I think makes sense as a filler. But yeah, I do love Boston 1 here, especially with Thomas Hertl still out from San Jose. Like, there's just nothing. It's Luke Cunnin, top line center, and Michael Granlund, second line center. Like, there's just nothing. So, Boston top line, definitely one of my favorite stacks on the slate. I even wrote up James Van Riemsdyk in the picks article, free to read over at Stokastic.com. DeBrusk was at the top of the projections for wingers in his price range. So even without that top power play time, he's still projecting extremely well in this matchup. So, yeah, I really do like Boston 1. If you want to take some one-offs from San Jose, like, one-off Mike Hoffman or like something like that, if people are playing Michael Granlund because Granlund's playing like 22 minutes a night, like, sure, I'm not stacking anything from the San Jose side. I'm just not even going to bother talking about them, really.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I like to do against the Sharks, because sometimes you see this game, like when teams play the Sharks, the game's over by the end of the first period. I think it's like 5-0. Sometimes what I like to do, I did it with Vegas, is just play double defenseman, play like McAvoy and Lindholm, McAvoy and whomever really. So like I don't mind going double defenseman from the Bruins. And someone in the Discord said, "Holy cow, it's Luke Combs." You should have seen me last year at the end of the hockey season when I had my big red beard and I was like 230 pounds. Doppelganger.
Stepping into the cage for a heavyweight tilt or something.
Yeah. Luke Ocho Combs, you know what I mean? Let's move on to the next one. Chicago Blackhawks with a 2.7 total heading into Detroit. The Red Wings somehow have a 3.7 total. I was a bit shocked when I saw this total. They're back to back, and there's no news on Larkin. Who knows if Kane's going to play? I don't think it matters.
I don't think Larkin's going to be playing. They seemed pretty hesitant to say that he was going to be playing tonight. So
yeah, maybe Lucas Raymond will smack himself in the face again. Did you see that play?
Yeah. If you're not one of my favorite pro wrestlers ever said, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. So
yeah, I mean, he should have got a double minor, but that's not the rules. But anyway, like I don't understand how they have a 3.7 total with JT Compher as the top line center. Like I know it's the Blackhawks, but like
it's the Blackhawks. Yeah, but it's still the Blackhawks.
Yeah, I get. Oh, that's actually a pretty good point. I didn't even think about it. Alex says Vegas is buying into the DeBrincat revenge narrative. It's, maybe DeBrincat scores 3 by himself. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the hat trick pick. But they're coming in with a little bit of positive leverage. Comfort, Raymond, DeBrincat. I guess it's fine. Not something I'm probably going to do in 1 to 3, just because there are so many really good spots, and I don't really want to rely on top center JT Compher to hinge on my night. So like I don't mind a one-off to DeBrincat or something like that. I just don't really like these lines. And again, on the Chicago side, like Detroit played last night. They lost to the Rangers. It was Ville Husso in net. So like again with Chicago, you want to do Bedard, Kurashev, 2 men, Bedard, Korchinski, Seth Jones, something like that. It's fine. Like I don't even mind that second line as a filler. You don't have to full man stack them, but Reichel, Johnson, Radish, you can take like 1 or 2 of those guys. If you're trying to power play stack a team, like you get Reichel on the top power play unit. That line as a whole is under 10K, coming in around 2%, but the Wings depth is atrocious. They're back to back. So honestly, don't even mind taking some of the cheap one-offs from Chicago.
Yeah, I'll say I think I like Detroit a little bit better than you do here tonight. Like, don't get me wrong. Dylan Larkin is far and away their best player. Like, I think he's a clear step above even somebody like Alex DeBrincat or Moritz Seider or whatever. At the same time, Chicago sucks. Like, I think that's something that we probably should talk about, because they are dead last in expected goals against at 5-on-5 in the month of November. The only thing that's keeping their goals against around 22nd, 23rd, like not even close to average, is really good goaltending. 9-10 save percentage. So this team is not good defensively at all. And, obviously JT Compher is a big step down, but look at what he did in Colorado last year. Like, no, he's not a guy I want as my top line center. But if I have a bunch of injuries, he kind of showed last year that he can play 20, 21, 22 minutes with really good players. I think that there's some merit to that. Like, there's not every player can do that, or else you'd see a lot more, third liners jump up to the top line and play 20 minutes. Compher and DeBrincat above water by expected goals together so far this season, not creating a lot, but definitely not allowing a lot. And they'll probably go out against the Bedard line, and the Bedard line this season, really bad defensively, nearly 3.1 expected goals against per 60 minutes, like 4.5 actual goals against. Like, they're sieves. And I get not wanting to play Detroit with JT Compher there, with the back-to-back, et cetera, but that's a perfectly correlated top power play unit at 4% at home against a bottom 5 team in the league. At a certain point, like, and especially where they're under 17K on DraftKings, like at a certain point, you just have to kind of believe in DeBrincat and Raymond and I've turned into a much bigger Lucas Raymond fan than I was the last couple seasons. At some point, you just have to believe in those guys and their ability to dominate Nick Foligno and Connor Bedard, and I think they can. Like, I really do like Detroit's top line here tonight. Dipping down deeper, like, I would probably just skip right over Andrew Kopp and Robbie Fabry. Those guys have atrocious numbers this year. I know Fabry had 2 points last night. Like, good for him. I don't think that's going to happen again here tonight. It would be the Perron, Veleno, Rasmussen line that I would go to as a filler. Don't mind like especially with Perron, the top power play unit. Don't mind like a 2-man of like Perron, Rasmussen or something like that. But for me, I really do like Detroit one here. On the flip side, like, I think there's merit to playing Chicago here tonight or Chicago's top line in particular, because there's not going to be any ownership, right? But JT Compher is a good defensive player. Like, that's one thing that we do have to give him credit for. And I think he'll turn that top line into a better defensive line. So I'm kind of out on the Chicago top line. I'm with you. I'd be more in on Reichel, Johnson, and Radish. They're pretty weak defensively, but at least they're creating not a lot, but a fair bit offensively. They're up to 3 expected goals. Tyler Johnson line is per 60 minutes at 5-on-5. None of them are shooting a lot, but nobody besides Connor Bedard really is shooting a lot. They'll probably go up against that Andrew Kopp line a fair bit, which is really bad defensively. As you said, a back-to-back. I don't mind that Tyler Johnson line, or some 2-man out of that as a filler, but I really do like Detroit one here tonight.
Yeah, okay, like maybe I was a bit harsh, and I don't dislike them. I'm just shocked because they're kind of still a one-line team, and getting a 3.7 total off of one line kind of is a bit crazy, right, Bacon? Yeah, Bacon agrees. Let's move on to the next one here. The Florida Panthers with a 3.8 total. Heading into Montreal, your Habs have a 2.6 total. Like, it's fair. They're back to back. Like, they're a pretty top heavy team as well. We were talking about Slavkovsky on the show or before the show. He looks like a completely different player from last year. It's nice to see they're building. Like, if you saw him play last year and didn't know he was picked first overall, you would have been shocked. Like, he actually looks like he belongs now.
You would have been wondering why he was in the lineup. Yeah.
But we're not here to talk about Slavkovsky. We're here to talk about the Panthers. And again, here we are once again. Florida 2 getting a ton of ownership. Florida 1 not getting a bunch. Now, Florida 1 is $1,700 more than Florida 2, but you get Barkov and Reinhart on the top power play. Evan Rodriguez, he's not on the top power play, but he is a shooter. He is a pretty good playmaker. He's not really a third wheel. He hasn't had the best month, but, that can turn around in an instant. Nothing like the Habs to cure your woes. So, like, based off ownership, I like Florida 1 the best here. Now, Florida 2 is still getting that ownership because eventually Matthew Tkachuk's going to explode. And he's going to have one of those 40-point DK nights, and people are just going to play him until he gets it, and then they're going to play him more after that. So, like, yeah, there's merit to going to Florida 2 here. You get 2 of the 3 on the top power play unit. This is an excellent power play spot. You can just straight up power play stack the Panthers if you wanted to, but I like both of the top 6 lines. I think I would go to Florida 1 just because the ownership is so much lower. But again, I think even on a 14-game slate, a full power play stack is in play for the Panthers here.
Yeah, I don't really like anything from the Montreal top 6 here. Florida is, not really anything from the top line like Newhook or Suzuki or anything. Like, they're going to see a lot of that Barkov matchup. And they've been excellent defensively so far this year. So, like, if you want a one-off Brendan Gallagher because of his price, I think, $3,500 on DraftKings, like, that's fine playing on the top line. But I'm not playing anybody from the Montreal's top 6. It's the third line that's a little bit more interesting to me. You have Sean Monahan down there who is still on the top power play unit. Joel Armia has actually looked pretty good this year whenever he's actually been there, because they sent him to the AHL earlier this season, but he's looked good most of his games. Josh Anderson Still doesn't, but he's on the top power play unit. So Montreal actually has two guys on that third line on the top power play unit. And the Florida third line opposite them, the Anton Lundell, Luosterainen line, is just not been good. Like, Lundell's really struggled this year. I thought this year might be a breakout year for him, and he just hasn't. Like, there's a reason why they had to move Evan Rodriguez back up to the top lines, because Lundell wasn't doing anything there. I think that Montreal 3 line is fine. Like, if you want a 2-man, like Anderson Armia, even, like, it's under $6K on DraftKings to use those 2 guys. One of them's on the top power play unit, like something like that. I am more interested on the Florida side. I think I'm interested in just straight up power play stacking here. Like, either the even strength lines are very much in play. Florida 2, like you said, coming in with a lot of ownership. DraftKings 14.5% projected ownership. FanDuel 24% projected ownership, because they're still really cheap. They're cheaper than the top line. But Montreal takes a ton of penalties. They only actually took 1 last night, which was, I mean, Columbus doesn't draw a lot anyway, so, whatever. But Montreal's still a top 5 team for time shorthanded. So far this season, they've given up 22 power play goals against in 22 games. Barkov, we said it on Tuesday's show, with Barkov back to Florida power play, has certainly looked a lot better than when he was out of the lineup. I just think it's a really, really good matchup for this Florida power play. And, those guys are going to play their minutes. Tkachuk and Bennett and Barkov, Reinhart, those guys are going to play heavy minutes as long as it's not a complete blowout. And if it's a complete blowout, they probably had a big hand in that. So if any of the even strength lines, I would just go back to the Barkov line. I wrote him up today in the picks article as well. One thing I noted is that he hasn't scored on the power play yet this year. And he actually has a career high in shots per minute on the power play. So he is shooting a lot. He's getting chances. He just hasn't scored. I don't think Matt Tkachuk has a power play goal this season yet either. So, that waterfall is going to start flowing here soon. So, I don't mind like a 2-man from the Montreal 3 side or whatever. But it is a Florida power play stack that I like the most here. Even strength, probably Florida 1, but it's the Florida power play guys I really, really like in this matchup.
If Matt Tkachuk doesn't score on his next 10 shots, he'll be shooting under 3% on the season.
That's nuts.
It's just bonkers.
That's like he's like Mason Marchment last year. Only Matthew Tkachuk's like a top 5 player in the NHL.
Yeah, wasn't he second in the Hart? He was second in the Hart last year.
I think so.
Yeah, that's just riding some percentages. New Jersey Devils with a 3.4 total heading into Philadelphia. I think I got the Flyers total wrong. They have a 3.5 total. Or did I get that wrong?
I mean, they might against New Jersey. I'll go check that real quick. But would it be like that big of a shock with the way that the Devils are playing right now?
No.
I mean, it would be a shock because it's Philly. I get it.
Nah, the Devils goalies suck. Like Vitek Vanacek hasn't made it through a game since 1941.
I'm just looking at Fantasy Labs right now. They opened at 2.6. Philly did. And got steamed all the way up over 3. So there's been a half goal added to their total, but it's not 3.5. It's probably 3.1.
Must have missed it when I was doing the run sheet. Good for me. But this game is in Philly, so you're going to see Couturier, Konechny most likely go out against Hughes and Toffoli. They have positive leverage, don't get me wrong, but they're 20,100. And I know you said it on the last show, it feels bad stacking the Devils without Hughes, and then you did it and you paid off. But but I'd rather take the $3,600 discount and go to Hischier, Bratt in this matchup. They avoid the Couturier line. They avoid the top pair for the Flyers, the Sanheim pairing, which actually has been pretty good. Dougie is a game time decision for the Devils. I kind of think he's going to be out, but we'll see there. I kind of like going to the Hischier, Bratt, Palat line. If you aren't spending up for the Hughes line, they're 65. You can fit them in with another, mid-range line. So for that, the Devils' second line, you get Hischier and Bratt on the power play. On the Flyer side, don't mind that Couturier line. They're only 13,500 for a top line. Like, they keep getting cheaper. Like, the Devils' goaltending is awful. And if Dougie is out, he's not the best defensive defenseman, but people have to start moving up, and that means Brendan Smith more minutes, and that is bad. Vitek Vanacek has been awful. Akira Schmid hasn't been much better. I don't mind going to some Flyers here, especially the Couturier line, even with some negative leverage. I also think you can go to like a Tippett one-off or a two-man of Farabee and Atkinson. Like there are options here for the Flyers, and I don't like myself for recommending Flyers on a 14-game slate, but like you have to. The Devils suck on defense.
I'm going to start with the New Jersey side. Here's my problem with using New Jersey tonight is that they are very, very reliant on power play scoring. They're basically Vancouver East right now. If you look at Jack Hughes' numbers, Jack Hughes has gotten half his points, literally 50% of his points this year on the power play. Jesper Bratt is at like 16 out of his, I think it's 16 out of 25 points for Jesper Bratt are on the power play. That's what, 64% of his points?
That's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins style.
It honestly is. And the Flyers actually have one of the best penalty kills in the league. Just in the month of November, third fewest shots against per minute while shorthanded. Only Carolina and Florida giving up less. Fourth fewest goals against per minute while shorthanded. It's been like that basically all season. Like I just wanted to see if they had fallen off over the last few weeks, and they haven't. I think they've actually gotten better. That's kind of the problem here is like when you're paying over $20,000 for a line, you probably need them to come through on the power play at least once. The Devils are good enough to do that. Don't get me wrong. If this were like a 7-game slate or an 8-game slate, I'd say, yeah, I could see it. On a 14-game slate, do you want to stack a $20,000+ line on the road against one of the best penalty kills in the league? That's kind of the issue that I'm running up against here. So I'm just not excited about playing New Jersey. And like, you know, Mercer and Toffoli have pretty good offensive numbers together. The Hischier, Bratt, Palat line have really good offensive numbers together. I think I would be out on Hughes, Toffoli, and Mercer. Like, I know that they have a higher top 2 percentage per the top stacks tool, coming in at 10.9% top 2 stack. But they're going to get the Couturier matchup, which is a bad matchup at 5-on-5. And they're going to run into what is one of the 3 best penalty kills in the league. And the Flyers don't take a ton of penalties either. 3.1 times shorthanded per game. The league average like 3.4. They're well below that. So, I mean, put them on the slander list, but I'm out on New Jersey here tonight. I agree with you. If anything, it would be the second line. I would want the Hischier line going up against like Scott Lawton or Morgan Frost or something like that. I don't want to go out. I don't want to take players going out against Sean Couturier with the penalty kill the way the Flyers are going right now. I agree. I think I like the Flyers side better here, but it would be almost certainly going to the Couturier, Konechny, Forster line. They've actually been pretty dominant in their time together. 2.9 expected goals for, 1.8 against. They're not giving up anything at 5-on-5, and they're actually scoring 3.3 goals per 60 minutes. You get Couturier and Konechny on that Sean Walker power play unit. Not that the Philly power play is anything. Their power play is about as bad as their penalty kill is good, which is, you know, that's kind of the way it is right now. But I do prefer that top line over anything on the New Jersey side. So I think Philly won for me. If I were to dip down, I don't know if I would go into the depth, because once you get to the Frost Tippett line, then you're going up against Michael McLeod a little bit. I don't really like that matchup. Definitely don't want to go up against Hischier. I think for me, it's Couturier, Konechny, and Forster that I like best in this game. They've been playing really well. Like you said, New Jersey does not have good goaltending. Not worried about that at all. New Jersey, it does take more penalties than the league average. So if Philly ever can magically score on the power play sometime, tonight might be a decent night to do it. And the top line's been playing really well. So I like Philly one here. Like I said, Clayton, put him on the slander list. I don't like New Jersey here tonight.
You can say a lot of things about John Tortorella. 2 things are always true, no matter what team he's coaching. The penalty kill is good and the power play sucks. It's carried with him no matter if he's the Rangers coach, the Vancouver coach, even when he had the Sedins, like that power play sucked. That's almost impossible. But anyway, penalty kill, always good. Their penalty kill last year was even good, and that team was awful. Pittsburgh Penguins with a 3 total heading into Tampa. The Lightning have a 3.5 total. Talked about not really wanting to spend up for the Devils top line, a little over 20,000. Tampa's top line is 21,900 tonight, and they're not getting much ownership at all. I would imagine that always comes up. Like Kucherov is always higher owned than his projection. But like Pittsburgh's top line, they're going to see that top line, and they're trading chances. If you're going to trade chances with Kucherov, yeah, the Pittsburgh doesn't take a ton of penalties, but like 3% projected ownership on the Lightning top line, I'm in on them. I don't have much faith in that blue line. I don't have much faith in the Crosby line defensively. I like Tampa 1 here. On the flip side, I don't have much interest in Pittsburgh. Like, I guess you can get to them in MME. I'd rather find the $500 more for Tampa 1 than Pitt 1, especially with a bigger total and at home. So you can go into the depth a little bit, but like I don't really love it. And then we talked about how Michael Eyssimont belonged on that second line. He's no longer there. But the Paul Eyssimont-Jeannot line is together, which has been very, very good this season. But again, like I don't really feel the need to go down to Tampa depth. The Pittsburgh third line has been very good this season. So like I think the only line that I truly, really like and I would consider in 1 to 3 is the Tampa top line.
Yeah. There is not much ownership on that Tampa top line. As you mentioned, I think a lot of it is people don't play Brandon Hagel because he's not like a volume shooter. He's not like, if Tyler Toffoli was on the second power play in New Jersey, he's still a guy that can shoot like 3.5 times per game. Like Hagel doesn't do that. But he is a good scorer. Like he's a smart scorer. You know what? I don't know how to explain it. It's like he knows how to take advantage of his opportunities. And if you just watch him play, you can see that. You can watch him hide behind defensemen. You can watch him, stay out of their peripheral vision. You can watch him sneak into the back door. Like that's how he gets some easy goals. I really do like Hagel. But as you said, not much ownership, 3% on DraftKings here tonight. Pittsburgh's been getting a little bit less high event as the season's worn on. Like over the last few weeks, they haven't been, trading chances as badly, but their expected goals against numbers over the last few weeks are still below average. Like they're good offensively, but they're trading chances just to a lower degree. But yeah, like a 3.5 total. I kind of agree with you. I do like Tampa 1 here. I like them better than New Jersey, which is the line that we just talked about. So I would prefer to play Tampa 1 here. Tampa 2, I'm passing on. Like until they break up Cirelli and Stamkos, like I'm just not interested in playing. Like one off Stamkos can always work because he is so good on the power play. I'm never stacking that line as long as Cirelli and Stamkos are together. Jeannot and Eyssimont have been really good this year. The minutes where they were really good tended to be more with Cirelli than with anybody else because there was a long stretch of time Eyssimont or Jeannot was on the fourth line. By the same token, I do think like a one-off Eyssimont or something like that is perfectly acceptable here. But yeah, I do like the Tampa top line. On the Pittsburgh side, it would be Pitt 2. It would be Malkin, Smith, and Drew O'Connor. Tampa's been using their top line more in a shutdown role of late. I think it's a function of Cirelli and Stamkos like blowing ass more than anything. So they're kind of forced to, even though they don't really want to. But that leaves Malkin in that pretty good matchup. And, they've been lower event with Joe O'Connor there, but Joe O'Connor's a shooter. Malkin had a nice shot last game, nice goal. Riley Smith is still like a dual threat offensive player. I don't think you have to full 3-man stack them, but like a 2-man of like Malkin Smith or something like that against what's a pretty weak second line from Tampa Bay. Like, I think that's what I like best on the Pitt side. So Pittsburgh 2, I think is definitely playable here tonight, but at that 3% ownership with Tampa 1, I agree with you. I do like them here.
Yeah, and you might see Kucherov come like 9, 10, 11%, but you're going to get Hagel really low. I don't know why people don't play him. Like he's kind of like
It's just he doesn't project well because he doesn't shoot a lot. That's basically what it comes down to.
Yeah, I mean, this maybe isn't the best comparison, but he does remind me a bit of Carter Verhaeghe. Just a little bit different type of player, but like similar DFS type of
jam he shoots less, but I think he's like a smart player like that. I agree.
Yeah, so like he's someone I always leave on the stack when I'm using Tampa 1. But anyway, sign up using the link in the description box below to get access to the best NHL data and tools in the industry. Get player and ownership projections, top stacks tools, line combinations. Get access to the Discord. Cliffy and I are always in there. Jake and his Giga Chad Jaw line are always in there. You have a whole bunch of smart people in there. You got Haas. He's an interesting fellow. We love the Haas. He keeps me busy. We'll put it that way. But like, yeah, Cliffy's showing all the tools that we reference on the show. You get access to it 24/7. You can do weekly. You can do monthly. If you're on the fence, I would suggest doing a weekly, giving everything a test run, and then you can, re-up if you want. You can add Fantasy Cruncher if you're an MFB player. You don't have to. If you're a single entry player, I don't use Fantasy Cruncher often, but I do use it when I try to MME and then mess up the CSV. That's just me. That's a lot of rhyming. But anyway, click that link in the description box below. You can take your game to the next level. If you have questions, you can always DM myself or Cliffy on Twitter. Then we yell at Jake, and Jake's like, well, I don't know. And then we'll get it taken care of. But yeah, join up. Seattle Kraken with a 2.9 total heading into Toronto. The Leafs have a 3.6 total. Leafs blue line is a mess because Giordano got hurt. Klingberg is hurt. Can we just say the creators of Robodias Island, they get mad when Tampa does this, but all of a sudden when Klingberg goes on long-term IR, saves their season, baby.
It's wild. It's wild. We don't have time to get into it. We'll get into it on some 6-gamer at some point.
Absolutely massive hypocrisy from Leafs fans. But anyway, I don't mind going back to Matthews, Nylander, knees. Again, they're not getting a ton of ownership at 21,400. They're another home team and a pretty good matchup. Like Seattle's all right. Like they're the definition of mid. Like there's no other way to describe them. And Grubauer starting, and his numbers this season are atrocious. So if there's ever a game for Matthews and Nylander and knees to get going after their stink fest in the last one, it is here. You can go to Tavares, Marner, Bertuzzi. I like them as a second line. They're coming in right at their top 2 stack percentage, and they're just about $4,000 cheaper, and you also get 2 guys in the top power play. But if you're going to use the Leafs, I would advocate using their best 2 players, and that is Matthews and Nylander. Cliffy might argue that it's Marner, but he has not looked right this season to me. On the Seattle side, there's still negative leverage on Seattle. Like, I just want to bang my head against the wall every time I see their ownership. It's not as egregious on past slates, but like 6.3% projected ownership on the Bjorkstrand line with a 1.3% top 2 stack percentage. I think for me, if I'm using the Leafs here, I'm going to Beniers, McCann, Eberle. Beniers actually, like, he's starting to shoot more, which is good because in the beginning of the season, he wasn't scoring because he wasn't shooting. Then he was shooting more and wasn't scoring, but now he's shooting more and scoring. So I think you take the lower ownership at 13.1 there, with 13,100. And if you are going to use Seattle, it's the Beniers, McCann, Eberle line for me.
Yeah, so with the Seattle lines, they are coming in over leveraged. But Jaden Schwartz got hurt. He's out. They're also missing Brandon Tanev. So those are 2 guys out from the second line. Their last game, they went full blender in the second half of the game. Ty Cartier was up on the top line in Eberle's spot. And then they put Alex Wenberg with Yanni Gord and Ely Tolvanen. So, and I haven't seen a morning skate today. I was just searching through Twitter, couldn't find anything. We're going to have to pay attention to warm-ups there because I got a feeling we might get some new line combinations from Seattle. And honestly, I would want to see Ty Cartier on the top line. Like, they have really good offensive numbers with him there. Cartier's been shooting quite a bit this season. Like, Cartier and Beniers have actually played almost 100 minutes together at 5-on-5 so far this season. 3.1 expected goals for, 2.2 against. They've been really good. They just haven't been able to finish. Beniers looks like he's kind of turning that corner a little bit. They'll go up against the Mitch Marner, John Tavares line. Like, I think they might use Tavares in a shutdown line here, actually, to try to get Matthews going a little bit. I think they did that in their last home game anyways. But either way, like, I think there's a chance to get a pretty low-owned Seattle top line here of McCann, Beniers, and Cartier, as long as that's what it is in warmups. Like, again, we'll have to wait until warmups. We don't know exactly what they're going to be. But I wouldn't mind that line combination. I think that's about where it would end for me, because I want the guys who are shooters. McCann and Cartier are probably the two best shooters on this team. They're both on the same line. Beniers is a good playmaker, even though he struggled a little bit this year. So I do like Seattle one. On the Toronto side, like, it is back to Nylander and Matthews. Like, I know they, like, the team, like, basically the entire team looked bad last game. Also, one last thing on the Seattle side. I don't think people realize just how bad Toronto's been. I mean, maybe some people do. How bad Toronto's been defensively lately. Yeah. The month of November, more goals against per minute at 5-on-5 than Chicago, and a worse expected goals against mark than Anaheim. That's over the last 4+ weeks. Like, we're not talking about like a 3-game sample or, the last couple weeks or something like that. We're looking at almost 5 weeks of data of this team sucking at 5-on-5 in the defensive end. I think there's merit to going to McCann, Beniers, and Cartier, as long as that's the line when warmups start. On the Toronto side, like, yeah, they've been bad defensively. Like, that whole team looked bad in their last game against Florida. Nylander, I think, hit 3 posts in that game. Like, he was not very far away from having an absolutely monster DFS night. I still like the Toronto top line here. You still get 2 out of 3 guys on the top power play unit. Seattle's penalty kill. Like, Seattle's been better defensively over the last month, but their penalty kill still sucks. Like, it's very bad. Matthews, Nylander, obviously on the top power play unit. They're coming in at double the ownership of Tampa Bay, which is interesting to me because I think Seattle is a much better defensive team than Pittsburgh is, but Seattle also has a much worse penalty kill than Pittsburgh does. So it's kind of like, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I do like going back to Matthews and Nylander here. They have a really good offensive sample going back years. Not coming in with a ton of ownership, maybe around 5, 6, 7% on DraftKings here tonight. So Toronto 1, Seattle 1. Seattle 1 pending Ty Cartier moving up to the top line, because I think that'll be a fairly low-owned 3-man combination.
Yeah, and like another good, like, you talk about how bad their goaltending is. Like, Grubauer starting, I think he's in the bottom 3 of goal saves above expected on the season for qualifying goaltenders. It's like almost -6. Like, he's been awful. I don't think like Jonas Johansson has been worse or something like that. Some scrub like that. But yeah. New York Islanders just killed me. They 2.6 total heading into Carolina. The Hurricanes have a 3.4 total. Andrei Svechnikov was practicing on the 4th line today. They do this, right? They move Bunting up because he was out. He was sick. Now Bunting scored against the Flyers. But that dude owns the Flyers, but he's up there now. Aho, Jarvis, Bunting. No ownership. 1.6%. We'll have to wait and see on lines. Like, I don't love much in this game at all. Like, I don't really like stacking against the Islanders now, although the Devils, like, put up 5 against Sorokin. It's Varlamov tonight, who's been pretty good. Like, Carolina is just so frustrating to stack. And on this monster slate in one lineup with not Svechnikov on the top line, if warm-ups come and it's Aho, Jarvis, Svechnikov, yeah, that's a little bit different. But with Bunting up there, not super excited about it. Anders Lee on the top line with Horvat and Barzal. Like, if this was like 2011, maybe I'd be excited about it. But like, Lee literally can't move. And that's not his fault. He had really bad knee injuries or whatever, but like, I just can't do it. like I would go to that second line as well. But like going into Carolina, even with their bad goaltending, is just a brutal matchup, especially when the Islanders forwards don't take a ton of shots. Like both these teams are so frustrating because it's going to be a defenseman fest taking shots from the point tonight. Rod mentioned today that Svetch placement wasn't much to read into, and that he and Bunting could swap. Yeah, like there's an ever revolving rotation of Teravainen, Bunting, and Svechnikov in the top six. Like it's just going to happen all season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly don't think I like any stacks in this game. One, because as you mentioned, and as our YouTube chat mentioned, I think there's going to be swaps during the game. That's one thing that's frustrating. I will say it seems like they're pretty intent on at least leaving Kotkaniemi and Necas together. And if they do make a swap, I think it is Svechnikov for Bunting. So you can probably go to Carolina too. And, that Islanders second line, month of November, 3.3 expected goals against. They're creating more than they're allowing, but they are turning into like Pittsburgh 1, basically, where they're just trading chances back and forth. So I actually don't mind Pittsburgh or Carolina 2 here. They're not coming in with a ton of ownership. I would probably leave Teravainen off and two-man Kotkaniemi and Necas and just focus on the second power play unit, because it's the Islanders' power play that is the real weakness of this team, or penalty kill, sorry. Their power play is actually a big strength of theirs. Their penalty kill is bad. And Necas, Kotkaniemi, both on the second power play unit. Kotkaniemi's looked really good for this team. Like, his problem last year is like he seemed allergic to going to the middle of the ice in the offensive zone. That's not been his problem this year. That's where he's finding all his success. And that's helping Necas out a lot, I think. So I do kind of like a two-man of Necas, Kotkaniemi from Carolina, but that's about it. Just one-offs from the Islanders side. Like as bad as as Carolina's goaltending has been, over the last month, Kochekov's got a .929 save percentage in 5 starts. It's just that they kept starting Antti Ranta, even though he was getting his brains beaten every night. Kochekov's actually been pretty good after a bad couple games right at the start of the year. So, if you want a one-off Barzal or one-off Brock Nelson, things like that, I think that's fine. But it's basically maybe a two-man from Carolina too. That's about it for me from this one.
Yeah, this game is MME. Where's Clayton? This game sucks. Just put it on the list. Yeah. Let's move on to the next one. Minnesota Wild with a 2.9 total heading into Nashville. Great city. The Predators have a 3.1 total. I have very little faith in John Hines. This is a John Hines revenge bench narrative, someone told me. Whatever that means, like coaches don't play. He is back in Nashville. But like, I have no faith that if Minnesota gets off to a bad start, that these lines are going to stick together. You saw it in Nashville. That dude last year, outside of keeping Duchesne and Forsberg together, blendered everything. He's Walmart John Tortorella. So like, I worry that Nashville is going to get off to a hot start and Hines is just going to completely blender the lines. Now, Nashville's penalty kill isn't great, so I think you can obviously, you go with some pairs. Like you can have Eriksson, Ek, and Boldy together because they're starting together. Zuccarello, Kaprizov, I think are fine. You know what I mean? Boldy actually looks like he's starting to turn around his season a little bit, hopefully. So like you can take a couple pairs. I just worry that these lines are going to be completely different by the end of the game. I like the Nashville side a bit more, especially if the O'Reilly line gets the Rossi, Zuccarello, Kaprizov matchup. And the Minnesota Wild penalty kill is atrocious. So that's a fully correlated line coming in at 3.3% projected ownership at 18K. I like Nashville one again here.
Another thing about John Hines, beyond just the blendering, is he spreads out the ice time amongst the forwards. If you look, like speaking of Philip Forsberg, he's in this game, was coached by John Hines for years. Philip Forsberg, the highest he had per game in any season was 18-17. He's at 19-19 this year in Nashville under Andrew Brunette. And last year, Forsberg was at like 17 and a half minutes a game. Like, yeah, maybe Boldy's looking better. I don't think people are making enough of the fact he played under 13 minutes in his first game. And that was a 2-1 game until Boldy scored with like 4 minutes left or whatever it was. Like, I don't think Boldy's going to play 13 minutes a game, but I also don't think he's going to play 18 to 19 minutes either. He's probably going to be like a 16-minute, maybe 17-minute at the most winger. That's a big problem. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want these guys to roster these guys playing that little bit of ice time. Why I do like Eriksson, Boldy, and Johansson is because they're going to avoid the Ryan O'Reilly line. And once you get past that line, like Nashville is fairly weak defensively. There are matchups that can be had. Nashville does not have a good penalty kill, as you said. So I don't mind Eriksson, Boldy, Johansson here, especially where they're not coming in with much ownership. 1.3% on the top stacks tool, 2.3% on DraftKings, top 2 stack percentage. But I really do have concerns about ice time. Like, I don't think enough is made of the fact that Philip Forsberg, okay, he's on pace for like 45 goals and 95 points this year. He played 17 and a half minutes last year under Hines. Like, and he was easily the team's best forward. That's the most that Matt Boldy will play this year under Hines, like on average. Like, he'll have games up to 18 or 19, but on average, I would not expect more than 17 and a half minutes from him, and that's a problem. But I do like the matchup, both at 5-on-5 and on the power play, so I don't mind Minnesota 2 here. I'm out on Minnesota 1. It's Nashville 1 I like the best here. Like, Minnesota has the worst penalty kill in hockey, right? And this Nashville top line is all correlated on the top power play unit. Maybe the penalty kill gets better under Hines for Minnesota. Like, maybe it does. Until I see it get better, I want to bank on them still sucking. And the thing is like, they're so bad, even if it gets better, what's it going to be, like 24th in the league? You know what I mean? Like, they have it. Like, I don't think people realize they literally have to cut their goals against in half to be average on the penalty kill, okay? So I still really like this Nashville top line. They're one of my favorite lines on the slate here tonight. If the Minnesota penalty kill is improved, then Nashville crashes and burns for me here tonight. Like, so be it. But they've been playing really, really well. I wrote them up in the picks article today over at Stokastic.com as one of my top stacks on the slate. 3.2 expected goals, 5.2 actual goals per 60 minutes, controlling 59% of the expected goal share. Often overplaying 20 minutes a night. So ice time is not a huge concern, all correlated on the power play. So Nashville 1, I like best in this game. And then Minnesota 2, a little ways down.
John Hines, the past few years, Nashville head coach, their penalty kill sucked. So like,
I'm not banking on it getting any better. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, especially this quick with a new coach who sucks. Anyway. Let's get to the main event of the evening. It's not really, but Buffalo Sabres with a 3.1 total. Heading into St. Louis, the Blues have a 3.4 total. Not exactly surprised at the Buffalo top line ownership. Middlestat, Skinner, Tuck. They looked amazing against the Rangers the other night. Now, you were saying, every once in a while, the Buffalo Sabres look like a cup contender, and then they just look awful. I went back and looked through their schedule. They play down to their opponents. Like, they play to their opponents. Now, whether you want to say the Blues are a good team or not, whatever. But, like, at 15-8, Middlestat, Skinner, Tuck, definitely willing to take some chances. The ownership's a bit concerning, double digits on a 14-game slate, but the price is there. Tuck and Skinner. Like, Skinner has been great all season, regardless of how bad Buffalo's been. So I don't mind that Buffalo top line. You want to go to the Buffalo second line, they're a bit over leveraged. They're 11K. They have some negative leverage. Like, they're a bit more over owned than I would like. So I'm probably out there. On the St. Louis side, Buchnevich, Thomas, Neighbors, 15,000, 1.6% projected ownership, coming in right after top 2 stack percentage. I like them as a filler. I know our resident miserable Blues fan, Haas, will disagree. He's been, pillaging at the gates, telling me the Blues are an awful play tonight. But at that ownership against the Buffalo Sabres team, who's had issues defensively, has issues in net, I don't mind them. You want a one-off Kyrou as well. I think that's fine, but it's both top lines in this game for me.
Yeah. Sorry about the fuzzy camera. I don't know what's going on. I leaned over to sneeze, and now it looks like I'm underwater. But they moved Kevin Hayes up to the Shen Kyrou line, which I don't know if that helps at all. You know what I mean? Like I don't think Kevin Hayes. I don't think Kevin Hayes is really going to turn Kyrou's season around. I mean, maybe he will. But yeah, that Neighbors and Thomas have actually outshot the opposition when they've been on the ice so far this season, which is not something that any St. Louis line has been doing over the last season and a quarter. I don't mind them because they are perfectly correlated. As you said, they're not coming in with a lot of ownership. Top Stacks has them 1.6%, 15K. That's very reasonable. Could all play heavy minutes here tonight, as they are leaning on that line a little bit more. The Buffalo top line's has been good offensively, but they're kind of like a Pittsburgh light in that they're creating a lot offensively, but they're also allowing a lot defensively as well. So I do like St. Louis top line, but I also like the Buffalo top line for the exact same reason. Like that's why I wrote up Casey Middlestat in the picks article. Is like the St. Louis top line has been allowing a fair amount of shots. I don't think it's still a small sample, not a lot of expected goals against, but only a few games together. But Alex Tuch, like you talk about Jeff Skinner. Jeff Skinner's been very productive this year. Alex Tuch, one of the highest rates of assists on teammate scoring chances in the NHL this season. Like he's top 10 in the league. He's just been tremendous. Had a pair of goals in a recent game as well. So I don't mind Buffalo 1 here, but double-digit ownership, like as good of a matchup as it is, St. Louis doesn't take penalties. They're the least penalized team in the league. Buffalo would probably have to score 3 goals at 5-on-5 to get there. Like you can't do it because it's St. Louis and it's Jordan Binnington. But I think I kind of prefer the St. Louis side here. Like I know it's a lower top 2 stack percentage, but it's literally like 1/6 of the ownership, 1/7 of the ownership for dueling top lines that are both perfectly correlated on the top power play unit, both coming in at roughly the same price, $15,800 for Buffalo 1, $15,000 for St. Louis. I'll take the cheaper line at much low ownership at home, and that's St. Louis.
Yeah, I agree. Take that, Haas. Edmonton Oilers with a 3.4 total heading into Winnipeg. Los Jets have a 3.2 total. Gabriel Velarde has returned. Gabriel Velarde returned on the 4th line. The good news, Nikolai Ehlers up on the top line with Scheifele and Connor here tonight. I don't know why Rick Bowness went away from that line. They were oil last year until one game back-to-back. They went into Montreal and they had a bad game. And Ehlers hasn't been on the top line since. That being said, this is another flowchart special, and I know people are like, flowchart. Just got the flowchart out of the shop. Crystal good. Crystal, I don't know what the heck I just said. But they're coming in with 2.6% projected ownership. And Alex Iafallo is off that line. Like, I cannot tell you how bad he has been on that line. Anyone, even Mason Appleton, would have been an upgrade over Iafallo. Ehlers is up there tonight. It's eventually going to be Velarde in there. But for tonight, they get the Oilers with Ehlers up there, fully correlated. Edmonton, as good as they are offensively, they suck defensively. I'm in on Winnipeg 1. On the Oilers side, you want to play the power play guys. Winnipeg can be taken advantage of on the penalty kill. I'm in on the Oilers power play guys. I don't really want to full stack any of these lines. I'd rather go to, there are many other lines that I prefer. I'd rather play Nashville 1 fully correlated than play Connor McDavid, Ryan Nugent-Hopkins for their 5-on-5 prowess. You know what I mean? So Edmonton power play guys, Winnipeg 1 for me.
Yeah, the Winnipeg top line getting Ehlers is pretty interesting because, like, you know, I'd like to think I'm one of the biggest Nikolai Ehlers fans, like, literally in the world. He's straight up
Probably.
not been good. He's not been good this year. Like, some of the playmaking metrics have not been good. His expected goals driving has not been good. He's taking a lot of shots from distance, which is definitely not what you want. Maybe it's a function of where he was playing, but that wasn't an issue for him last year. And like you said, he wasn't on the top line that much when he came back from injury. So, you know, I could see him definitely turning around the top line, or turning his game around on the top line. Sorry. Going back to last year, 170 minutes together, 4 expected goals, 3.5 actual goals per 60 minutes of 5-on-5. And we know how bad the Edmonton goaltending has been. So I'm with you. I do like Winnipeg 1. It's just scary for me seeing the ownership on the Oilers. Like, you and I always say, like, when there's low on Connor McDavid, like, those are the nights that you have to worry about. And there is low on Connor McDavid tonight. DraftKings ownership has McDavid at 4.5%. Nugent Hopkins 3.4%, and basically everyone else at 2% or less. Like, I know it's a 14-game slate, and I know that they're on the road, and I know that they're very expensive. You could probably get like a Nugent Hopkins, Connor McDavid 2-man here tonight at like 2 to 3% ownership, especially with how bad the Winnipeg Jets penalty kill has been. Like, it's not even that they're allowing a ton of shots. It's that their goaltending has let them down. Like, Connor Hellebuyck, he's had a tough season, and it's been especially bad on the penalty kill. You know, Edmonton has certainly turned things around under the new coach. Like, they've won 3 straight games. Like, they just put up 4 goals on Vegas, and I would consider Vegas to be a much better defensive team than Winnipeg. So I like both sides of this game. To be honest, like, I think the perfectly correlated Winnipeg top line makes a lot of sense at 2, 3, 4% ownership. I also think getting the exact same ownership on Connor McDavid and, you know, whomever else you want to add with him, whether it is, you know, Brian Nugent-Hopkins, whether you want to pair him with Leon Draisaitl, which I don't think is, you know, absolutely necessary, but it's playable. Like, Zach Hyman is going to be back tonight. Hyman has 22 shots and 4 goals in his last 5 games. Like, I like both top lines here. I would probably lean Winnipeg just because they're at home and can kind of dictate the matchups. And, you know, we know what Edmonton's goaltending has been like, but I'm going to be honest, man, like 2, 3, 4% of Edmonton 1, that's something that's really appealing to me here tonight.
Yeah, and McDavid is on a little heater too. So, like, low on McDavid on a heater is horrifying. And if you fade and he goes nuts, you got to kind of hope that there's multiple paths to victory. The slate is big enough to give you that, but, like, still scary.
I mean, it's kind of the thing with McDavid, right? Is like, you know, if he's healthy now, which, you know, we don't know, we're always guessing about that. If he's healthy, he's going to have a month where he puts up like 31 points in 12 games. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's going to happen. So maybe now's the time to get in on the ground floor, even though he has 12 points his last 3 games as it is. Like, oh my God, this guy's insane.
Yeah. Will they give Ehlers 13 minutes? If he looks bad, you're going to see Velarde up there before the end of the game.
I was going to make a joke. Yeah, I think that's exactly why Velarde's on the 4th line, is because they want to see if they can get Iafallo working on the 2nd line. They're not breaking up the 3rd line. Velarde's on the 4th line. It's like a shark in the water waiting for Ehlers to have one bad shift.
Yeah. You're barking at the Christmas tree. But anyway, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are sponsored by Better Picks, and you can double your first deposit up to $500. Better Picks takes the traditional fantasy picking concept and amplifies it with the ability to win up to 100x your entry if you correctly select up to 8 picks. Choose wisely and watch your winnings soar. Forget about frustrating ties and pushes. Better Picks keeps the excitement flowing with no pushes allowed. Every pick counts, and every decision matters as you strive for victory. Better covers a wide range of sports, including NFL, NBA, MLB, NHL, and more. Whether you're a seasoned sports fan or a casual enthusiast, we offer an extensive selection of player projections to choose from. Dive into the action, analyze the stats, trust your instincts, make the winning picks. And remember, the legal age for gambling in most states is 21 plus. And if you or someone you know has a gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado Avalanche with a 3.7 total heading into Arizona. The Coyotes have a 2.7 total. So here we are again. Avs top line. They've gotten a little bit of rest anyway. McKinnon is over his icky, whatever it was. 34.4% top two stack percentage on a 14-game slate might be the most diabolical thing I've ever seen since I've started working at Stochastic. Like that might be the highest on a large slate that I've ever seen. Like the other night on a 6-game slate, Colorado one was like 41%. 14-game slate, 34.4% chance. It's just a matter if you want to spend up for them. They're 24,800. That is wildly expensive. Like even at the beginning of this week, they're only 23,700. They've gone up 1,100. They've been getting a ton of minutes though. Like Nishushkin's been playing like 25, 26 minutes. Like the dude just never leaves the ice. Rantanen, and McKinnon will get you 23, 24 minutes. Juuso Valimaki is back tonight. That's a big boost for the Coyotes. Logan Cooley's still on the top line, though, and that line has been getting caved in with him up there. So, again, if you want to pay up for Colorado one, great matchup, good power play matchup, go for it. If you're not comfortable spending that much and you like a lineup where a little bit more balanced, do it. Like you don't have to play Colorado one tonight. They just are an excellent play tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything really to say about this game. They've been using the Michelli line more in a shutdown role because Logan Cooley's been so bad on the top line. With Logan Cooley there, they're up to almost 50 minutes together. In those 50 minutes, they're generating 39 shot attempts per 60 minutes. Like you'll probably see a Carolina penalty killers generate that much. Like he's just not fit for that top line. The Colorado second middle six has actually been pretty good defensively. I just don't have any interest in Arizona here. For Colorado, it's top line or bust. Like there's not a lot to say about this game. Like I don't have any interest. I don't have interest in full stacking anything from Arizona, like a one stack or a one off like Carcone or a one off Kraus, something like that. I think that's fine. I'm not stacking anything. Colorado side, it's top line or bust because I think you want to particularly take advantage of the Arizona penalty kill, which has not been good, and they do take a fair amount of penalties. They do get Juuso Valimaki back, which does help. I do like Colorado one. I just think that they're so expensive that there are reasons to go play a line like Tampa Bay or I don't think I would necessarily go to Pittsburgh, but Tampa Bay, Boston, something like that. Florida power play. Like there are just other expensive spots that I think I'd rather go to.
Yeah, I kind of agree. Like I'll definitely consider them 1 to 3. I'm going to try to build with them and see what I can get in there with them. But like, I feel like on this slate, there's going to be a lot more comfortable options, which actually kind of scares me because like there are a lot of cheap lines on the slate. And if Colorado one does go off and one of those cheap lines go off, there could be some pretty high scoring. But Dallas Stars, they 3.2 total heading into Calgary. The Flames have a 2.9. This is a game that does not interest me much. Which is always famous last words. I can't rely on the Stars anymore. Like that top line coming in at 2.1% with a 4.7% top two stack. If this was that line last year, they'd be like 13, 14% top two. They'd definitely be in play because Markstrom sucks. But like this game's in Calgary. They're going to get the Backlund Colvin Huberdeau matchup, which actually hasn't been good, but like I just don't love Dallas one. Like for me, it's a broken record for me. Back to the Duchesne, Sagan, Marchment. They're 12,900 under 1% projected ownership. On the Calgary side, like I guess you can go to Lindholm, Mangiapane, Sharangovich with their power play units. You get 2 of the 3 there, but like Flames power play is cheeks, man. Like I just don't love this game.
Yeah, this was honestly the one game where I don't have a stack amongst main stacks or filler stacks ranked in the top 10 in my personal rankings. Calgary has been better since they've gone to basically these line combinations. Markstrom, after a bad couple starts to start the year, he's been really, really good. Dallas's top line still not generating anything. 1.9 expected goals per 60 minutes over their last 4 weeks. None of them are shooting. They're playing 16 to 18 minutes. Like, if you're playing 150 max, like I imagine you'll probably have 3-4% Dallas one or something like that. It's just not something I'm interested in single entry. I just think the thing is like there are other spots in that price range that I would rather go to. Like, that line is 18,300 coming in at 2%. Nashville 1 is 18,000 coming in at 3%. Like, I would way rather play Nashville than that Dallas top line here tonight. So, like, one off Wyatt Johnston, one off Matt Duchene. You know, if you want to one off Joe Pavelski or something, yeah, that's all fine. There's just nothing I want to stack from that side. And the Calgary side, like, they're basically Seattle. I don't think that's something that's kind of going unnoticed here. Is like they have guys spread out on the power play all across their lineup. They're all super cheap. None of them are shooting and barely scoring. Like, they're another Seattle. Like, if anything, I would probably want to get into that Ben Johnston Dodonov line. And if you want to do that, you probably go to Lindholm, Sharangovich, Mangiapane. You know, I think they're a fine filler. They're coming in over-owned. I just think maybe there's some one-offs I like here tonight, but like I said, there's nothing that's jumping out to me for a stack.
Yeah, I don't love this game at all. So do with that what you will. Washington Capitals, talking about going for teams that I don't care about. Washington Capitals with a 2.6 total heading into Anaheim. The Ducks have a 3 total. The Ducks have a higher total than their opponent. The Washington Capitals have not scored on the power play since October 29th. October 29th. They played the Sharks 2 days ago. They're dust, man. This is another great power play spot, though. I just, like, I don't want to play. Me, you, Haas, and, like, the beer vendors could probably score on the Ducks penalty kill. But can Washington? I don't know. Like, they have looked so bad. I just, like, I don't know. Like, negative leverage on that top line, I just can't do it. You want to play Washington once tonight? You want to chase that? Be my guest. Like, it's a good matchup. Like, I just can't do it. Ovechkin, the greatest scorer in NHL history. And if you disagree, probably wrong. But he's looking his age. He hasn't looked great. He can barely skate. Kuznetsov and Ovechkin have had awful numbers going back a few seasons. I want to like the Ducks here tonight. I just like 16-5 for McTavish for Toronto Strome is a little bit too much for me. Is Leo Carlson going to play tonight? I don't know. Yeah. So
yeah,
he's in.
He was at morning skate on the top line with Killorn and Terry, at least.
Yeah. But, like, Killorn sucks. Terry hasn't shot the puck since September. It's just like, I want to get behind these lines, but, like, because Washington's awful. And they played last night. And they won. But Lindgren was in net. Darcy Kemper has been bad. Like, I guess a one-off McTavish or I don't even know. Like, I want to play Ducks. I just don't like it. I don't like this game.
So, I'm not in on the Carlson line, Carlson and Terry and Killorn. The line that I wrote up in the picks article was Strome, McTavish, and Frank Vetrano, because they are giving up more defensively, but they're still generating offensively. And that's not something that the Carlson line is doing. They're not generating anything. But even in November, that Strome McTavish line, 2.8 expected goals, 3.3 actual goals per 60 minutes. Vetrano and McTavish are 1-2 on the team in shot attempts per minute in the month of November. Like, they're the only line that's doing anything. Problem is this could be one of those situations where a coach galaxy brains himself into a tough matchup because Kuznetsov, Ovechkin, and Wilson have been awful, absolutely god-awful. I mean, on both ends of the ice, but especially defensively. 4.5 expected goals against per 60 minutes, only 3.5 actual goals against. That's like 33% worse than the league average. And that is with the great goaltending that you were talking about from Charlie Lindgren. Like, that line sucks. You want McTavish and Strome and those guys going out against them, but the way that Anaheim runs their lines, they're not going to, or at least not very much. They're going to go out probably against the Nick Dowd line, maybe against the Connor McMichael line if we're lucky. That's kind of the problem, but it's still a road back-to-back for Washington. It is Kemper and not Lindgren. Kemper's been much worse this year. I kind of do like Anaheim, the McTavish, Strome, Vetrano line here. Like, I honestly do. Power play is a little bit of a concern because Strome and Vetrano are on the second power play unit, but they've been basically splitting time of late because Anaheim power play's not been that good. I like Anaheim too here. On the Washington side, it's the McMichael line. Like, Connor McMichael actually looked pretty good last night in that. Like, I watched the first 2 periods of that Kings Capitals game. I would say Connor McMichael was his line was the only line that actually looked NHL caliber last night. That's basically been the case for a few weeks now. So if you want to go and play the Connor McMichael line, like 2-man of like McMichael, and I think he was playing with Dylan Strome for a bit. You want to do that, I think that's fine. But it's the Anaheim second line I like best in this game.
Just to put a bow on how bad the Kuznetsov-Ovechkin line has been, per expected goals for metrics, Kuznetsov and Ovechkin have lower expected goals for per 60 than Barclay Goodrow and Jimmy Vesey.
I don't feel like Jimmy Vesey needed that slander.
No, he's actually on pace for like a 30-goal season playing fourth line minutes. But like Barclay Goodrow couldn't outskate a cone. And, for whatever reason, Ovechkin, Kuznetsov, not it. Vegas Golden Knights with a 3.1 total. Heading into Vancouver, the Canucks have a 3.3 total. Last game of the night here, and it's not a Sharks game. We love to see it. Low-owned McDavid scares me. Low-owned Vancouver also scares me. Not the best matchup, but like there's no ownership here. Not the best power play spot, but again, under 1% projected. Getting some of these power play guys in, like this power play is one of the best in the NHL. You give them 3 opportunities, they're going to score on one of them. For their price, I don't mind going to JT Miller, Brock Besser. You can add in Quinn Hughes. I think it's an MME thing. Like, I don't think I'm going to get there in 1 to 3. I might, but like Brock Besser still leading the NHL in goals, 0.2%. I kind of like Vancouver too.
Yeah, the JT Miller line would be the line I would go to. They're going to see more of that Carlson-Marchessault line. Carlson-Marchessault not really been great defensively together this season. I don't like Vancouver in this matchup because it's the New Jersey problem. That's why I called New Jersey Vancouver East. They need the power play really to get there. Vegas has had one of the better penalty kills in the league this season. They don't take any penalties, 3 times shorthanded per game this season. It's like the 4th fewest per game of any team in the league. And on top of that, they're allowing like the 7th fewest goals against per minute. Like Vegas has only given up 10 power play goals against this entire season. Like that's like a week for Montreal. You know what I mean? So it's a really, really bad power play matchup for Vancouver. Phil DiGiuseppe back on that second line, like the numbers were really falling off. Like there's a reason why he was moved off that line. The top line, Kuzmenko booted off the power play, so you only get 1 guy on that top power play unit. Like, yeah, if you want to one-off Pettersson, I think that's fine. If you want to one-off Besser, I think that's fine. I just don't know about full stacking anything from the Vancouver side. On the Vegas side, like I'm getting tempted with Eichel, Stone, and Stevenson. They're only 16,700. Like they're basically the same price of that Anaheim line. Like a Jack Eichel, Mark Stone line is roughly the same price of a Frank Vetrano, Ryan Strome line. Like, you know what I mean?
Feels
at a
bad.
certain point, like you kind of have to believe in them. So I don't mind Vegas 1 here at really, really low ownership as a mid-price line. That would be the only line that I would really have interest in. So I think it's Vegas 1 for full stacking. I think it's only Vegas 1 that I want here tonight. Not really a great matchup, but a pretty good power play matchup for them. Power play was fine last year with Alex Pietrangelo running it at times, especially with Shea Theodore out. So Vegas 1 for me. I don't think I'm stacking Vancouver here tonight.
The difference for me for Vancouver and New Jersey is Vancouver's cheaper. They have much lower ownership, and their power play is better.
I mean, Vancouver's only cheaper because of Di Giuseppe. Like,
That's
yeah,
true.
if you play Di Giuseppe, it's going to be cheaper. If you put in any of their power play guys, it's not.
Well, besides like Mikheyev, but he wasn't even there. Like
He's
it was
not on the
Hronek.
power play. That's the problem.
It was Hronek. So yeah, okay. Valid points. Coming up after us, 4:30, Owner's Box Live with Greg Ehrenberg. At 5 p.m., the NBA Deeper Dive with Josh Engelman and Adam Schur. 6 p.m., NBA Live Before Lockhouse with Greg Ehrenberg and Matt Bellman. 7:15 p.m., NFL Showdown Live Before Lock with Neil and former Iowa State caddy Eric Lindquist. Let's talk a little bit about defensemen here. In the high-end range, the two that stick out to me are Yossi and Charlie McAvoy. If you want to pay up for Makar, I think that it's a very good spot as well. If you're not going to play Colorado 1 and you want some action in that game, I think Makar is a very good play. Who else are you liking in the top range?
Yeah, Yossi, Makar, Carlson are basically, John Carlson, I should say, are basically the 1 to 3 that I looked at. I mean, as much as we slander Washington and they do suck, they should get a lot of power play opportunities here tonight. It's the mid-price guys that I like best. Like Seth Jones was moved back to the top power play unit. He's fairly cheap. I wrote up Brent Burns in the picks article. I think it's a great matchup for him against the Islanders. Brandon Montour, he's been shooting a lot. He's just been missing the net a lot. Like if he could actually start hitting the net, his shots on goal per game would go up quite a bit. So I don't mind Brandon Montour. Jacob Slavin as well. Like if you don't play Brent Burns, I think playing Jacob Slavin on the second power play unit makes a lot of sense. Some cheap guys I like. Valimaki's coming back. He's 2,500. Urho Vakanainen playing 18-19 minutes for Anaheim in a pretty good matchup at 2,600. Tyson Barrie was on the top power play unit for Nashville in their final power play of their most recent game. He might be on the top power play again in a really, really good power play matchup at 2,900 on DK. So I like him. If you want to pay up a little bit more, Alex Romanoff, Cam Fowler, power play time. Gustav Forsling in a really good matchup at 3,500. He's still getting good minutes. Noah Hannafin running the power play for Calgary. So those are the mid-price guys I like.
Yeah, lots and lots of defensemen here tonight. I'm sure we missed some, but like if you have a guy that you like, play him. Let's talk about some goalies here. Jeremy Swayman, 8,600. You don't see $8,600 goalies too often. That is wildly expensive. It is the Sharks with like a 0.7 total. So you need a shutout there. Definitely finding cash. GPPs, if you have 8,600, I guess it's fine. But Bobrovsky, 8,500 is just like, I don't know, man. Spending up seems like a bit of a thing that I don't like to do. I don't mind Georgiev at 8,300. I'll say that. Joseph Woll, 8,200. A little bit of a shot volume concern there with Seattle, but I don't mind Woll. Like, going down the list, like Binnington and Wedgwood, both 8K. Like I would rather just not do that. The Devils goalie, I just no thank you. Don't mind Demko at 7,900. Saros obviously at 7,800. Even Gibson here, like normally you play Gibson for the volume. I think this is a very winnable game for the Ducks. Hellbuck, if you want to fasten your seatbelt and go for a ride in an F1 vehicle, I think is okay. Varlamov for the cheap at 7,200. Connor Ingram always in play. Playing any Caden Primo?
I mean, I wrote up Thatcher Demko in the picks article. I think it makes sense to play him against Vegas, especially where Demko's under 8K. He's way more expensive on FanDuel, so maybe not playing there, but definitely on DK. Jake Ottinger, he gets slandered a lot, but I do like him. It is Wedgwood playing. Yeah. Sorry. UC Saros, don't mind him here tonight. But it is cheap goalies that I'm looking at. Caden Primo is absolutely one of the goalies that I'm looking at. Semyon Varlamov, I think, probably my favorite play on the entire slate. Going into Carolina at only 7,200. He's been excellent this year. Connor Ingram, if you really want to ride the Lightning here tonight. But I think it's Saros, Demko, Primo, and Varlamov are the 4 goalies that I'm really picking between.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ingram on the season. His lowest win, he's had 2 under 20, but 4 over 25 when he wins, and he's 7,100. If Arizona wins this game, it's because of Connor Ingram, not because Logan Cooley went nuclear. We'll knock on some wood there, but yeah. Who are you liking for your hat trick pick?
Quack, quack, baby. Frank Vetrano.
Yes. I'm going defenseman because I like Payne. And he's going to hit the net tonight. Brandon Montour.
Ooh, that'd be something.
Yeah. We like the Brandon Montours. We will be back. That was a really long show, but thank you for sticking around. It was a 14-game slate. We don't like to skimp out on some games, even though they suck. We give you the due diligence you guys deserve for tuning in. So thank you for tuning in. Smash that like button on the way out. You want to go premium, click that link in the description below. Get in the Discord. We'll give you a nice warm welcome. We'll be back on Saturday. Tomorrow's a short slate. Good luck, everybody, and hopefully we're talking about you at the start of Saturday's show.
Good luck tonight, everyone.